So we can authenticate and we can get into an authenticated page. And now let's do the fun stuff. Let's add some photos. So I'm going to do the capture next because in the feed, we don't have anything to download yet, so we need to be able to add something first. So let's add another view controller. This will be the view controller that's displayed to finish up that photo. In the nav bar here, I'm going to put another bar button item. Kind of like we've done in the past. And so this bar button item is going to be to take a picture. So I'll just put the plus symbol here. Actually, I think there's an asset in here that we provided. So if you look at the properties here, there's an image. I think there's an image of a camera button. So you can take that button and then control drag to here, and let's do this as a modal presentation. Most compose are modal. So if you look at Facebook, you do a compose, look at Twitter, do a compose, it's gonna bring in another screen. So you can do it as a other option like a show, but from a UI perspective, modal is more common here. And then this thing, let's create another view controller for it, and this will be our capture, so I'll call it our camera view controller. Go ahead and create that, do what we always do, and go back to the storyboard, click on the driver's license icon. I call it the driver's license icon. It's the identity inspector, and say, hey, you are going to be the camera view controller. All right, so let's also lay it out. I'll bring up my objects library again, and this will be a really simple one. It's just going to be an image view here that's going to show the photo that was taken. And then we provided a default placeholder, which you can use if you want to. It's just this thing. Scale, aspect, fill. Always for image views, always get in the discipline of using aspect, fill, clip to bounds. That's just always what the right answer is. And then text field, oops. A text field to input my cute comment. And then a submit button. All right, so once I've done the layout, then as always, I tie together my actions and my outlets. Call this submit. All right, so let's create my outlets. I'm gonna create my image view here. My comment field. And then my action on the submit button. So one more thing, I actually need to be able to launch the camera. And so the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to add a gesture recognizer so that if you tap on this thing, then it'll launch the camera for you to take your picture. So pull up in the tap gesture recognizer, drop it over here, and then on the tap gesture recognizer, I'll say on camera button. So this thing, when I tap the image, I want this thing to be run here. So before we get into parse or any of that, let's just work with how to open the camera. So to open the camera, you need to add something up here called a UI image picker delegate. So this delegate will give you the camera events. And so once the user's finished taking their photo, this thing tells you, hey, call me back with a function that will give me the image. So now I need to launch the camera, and there's two ways to do this in iOS. This is the easy way. So I'm going to say let picker is equal to UI image picker controller. And then this is a special built-in view controller, which I'll then present. I'm going to say picker.delegate is equal to self, and then picker.allows editing is equal to true. So picker.delegate is equal to self says, hey, when you're done with when the user is done taking a photo, let me know what they took. So call me back on a function that has the photo. Allows editing presents a second screen to the user after they take the photo to allow them to kind of tweak the photo before finishing up. And so I think this is the easy way. Well, what's wrong with doing the easy way? It's not very configurable. And so if you don't like the way the camera looks, if you notice Instagram or Snapchat or these others, they have, of course they have the filters, but more than that, they just have a custom look and feel, which you can achieve with this thing. So if you want the custom view, it just gets much harder. You have to use something called AV Foundation. And more realistically, probably use a third-party library that kind of wraps up embedding custom cameras. But this is the quick and dirty approach that allows you to do this very quickly. Now this error right here, let's read it. I forgot to insert another delegate. So this UI navigation controller delegate, for some reason we have to declare this as well. So I'm going to put this up here. So up top, UI image picker controller delegate and UI navigation controller delegate. Then after I create the controller, what I need to do is because we're running in the simulator, I need to check to see if the camera is available. Otherwise it's going to crash. So I'm going to say is source type available. And this is a Swift enum. So Swift enums you can actually start with dot, and it will kind of smartly figure out that kind of based on where you are, which enum you're expecting. So I'm going to say, hey, if the camera is available, then I definitely want to use that. So if you do use your real phone, which is always kind of fun, then it'll by default open up the camera. If you're running it on the simulator, therefore the camera's not available, then you have to use the photo library, right? And in real life, maybe you want a button for both, because sometimes you want to either take a new photo or use something that you've already taken. And then you just do present. So sorry, let me just use the autocomplete here because it will do this for me. So present the picker with animation, and then I don't need a completion block. So this thing right here, if I run it, should allow me to, upon tapping on the camera button, I want it to show the photo album. Now I don't do anything with it yet, but hopefully that will come next. So I tap on the camera button, it'll open up my picker. I tap on this photo and I want to launch the camera, but nothing's happening. For some reason, my tap gesture recognizer is not firing. Now, there's a number of reasons why this is the case. One of the most common ones is if I click in storyboard. Normally this is enabled by default. I'm not sure why it wasn't in this case, but you need to have user interaction enabled checked. Sometimes you want to disable interaction for various reasons, but if you have this unchecked or set to false in code, then any gesture recognizer that's attached to it won't work. So I come back, I check to see that this is enabled, and then I attempt to, let's attempt to do that again. So I'll log in. And this time I have this album that comes up. So I get the stock thing. This is what I mean by, hey, if you like this, great. If you want to change it, too bad. You can't. This is just how it comes. So I tinker with it. This is the editing view. I'm happy with it. I say choose, and then nothing happens. But nothing happens because we didn't tell anything to happen. So what do you want to happen? Well, I'd like the image to show up here. So in order to do that, after the picker is finished, you have to implement a function called image picker controller, this second one here. So it did pick the image. And at this point, this will hand you back a dictionary that has the image. So let's pluck the image out. Let's say image is equal to info. So it comes inside of a dictionary. called info. And it comes with a lot of other information, including the actual image asset. So I'm going to cast it as a UI image. It's coming out of a dictionary. And then once I have the image, what I want to do is I actually want to resize it, because what happens is that this thing is like a 10 megabyte image. And if you try to upload it to Heroku, first of all, it's going to take a while. And secondly, it'll start to, Heroku has a limit of the number of the binary size that you can upload. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import Alamo Fire image, and I'm going to resize it. So I'm going to choose a new size. So I'll say let size is equal to CG size, core graphics size, and then I'll choose something reasonable. So 300 is actually pretty small. So hopefully this will make this fairly small. And then I'm going to create another UI image that's smaller. And I'll use the Alamo Fire extension and say, hey, scale this down. And then inside my image view, which is the thing that's displayed, I'm going to say, hey, put that scaled image inside of here. And then, so I might also need to dismiss that camera view. So let's run this and see how we did. So I have the image now, and the next step, which we'll do in another video, is to take this stuff and then upload it to Parse.